right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know who it is. It is DJ Immortal. It is interview time. It is 8:30 here on the East Coast, and we got none other than the rising star of R&B. We got the one, the only El Terrel right here, right now on the line. How you doing this evening?
Yeah, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How's everything out in Atlanta?
Oh man, it's lovely. It's lovely. The weather is a little messed up right now, but other than that, we good.
Yeah, I hear you, man. The weather's a little messed up here in Canada as well. We're on a 6 day of a heat wave, so I'm just begging for rain and a thunderstorm right now.
I understand. I do understand.
So if you want me asking, man, what made you decide to get into R&B? Like, what made you decide to get into the music industry?
Well, man, I've been singing since I was like 2 years old. I started singing in church, and I sung in church for the majority of my life. And about 2018, I just decided that hey, it's time for me to explore uh, some of my other talents and gifts as well, and my songwriting. So I crossed over to R&B, and it's been going great.
And that's what's up, man. You know what I mean? Like, so what inspired you to actually get into rhythm and blues? Was there a particular artist or group?
I grew up in a house, man, where we just listened to just a lot of old school artists, man, and I grew up in an era where I like to call it the greatest era of R&B, and that was the '90s, man. You know, and back then, everything on the radio, everything on the videos on TV, it was about R&B basically. R&B was running things back then, and that right there, I wanted to be those guys. I wanted to be the Ushers, the 112s, all of those guys.
Hey, man, you know what? I'm gonna say this for a fact, man. Like just like I said before we got up on the air, man. I really do think you actually had that potential to actually be that big, man. I really enjoy your music. It's actually playing here on the radio station, and my listeners have been giving nothing but positive feedback with your music.
Oh, that is awesome, man. That's awesome.
And also, aside from your music type of things, I also saw on your Facebook that you are a military veteran. If you don't mind me asking, like, how long were you in the military for, and what part, what exactly did you do within the military?
Well, I was in the military. I was in the Army for 8 years. I did 8 years in the Army as a human resource specialist starting off, and then I crossed over into a truck driver close to the end of my career there. And when I got out as a sergeant E5. So that was a great experience for me because I actually dropped out of high school and I went to a military school that was funded by the Virginia National Guard because I am from Virginia. And I went to a school that was sponsored by the Virginia National Guard. And there, we just basically lived in barracks for 6 months, studying for our GED and things like that. And afterwards, it was like, hey, I don't want to go back to the streets, so I might as well try to, continue this.
And that's true, you know what I mean. And I first and foremost, I do want to say, even though we're in Canada, I do want to say just thank you so much for your service, man. If it wasn't for individuals like yourself, we wouldn't have freedom. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
You're most certainly welcome, man. And I also noticed that you did a lot of work with an individual called Frank Poe. I have to ask you, how did you and Frank Poe actually get connected?
That's a real crazy story, but I love to tell it because what happened was we went to the same engineer, the same studio engineer, and it was actually my first time working with this particular engineer. And I went and sat down with him, and after we finished our session, he said, "Hey, man, I got this song from this artist named Franco who has a great song, and I think your voice would be perfect for it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, play it." So he played the song, and I heard the hook one time, and I said, "All right, let's go." And I recorded it right then and there, one take, and he was like, "Yep, that's what we want," and that was it.
Hey man, you know what? One of my favorite songs that you actually did with him as well is called "Don't Shoot," man. It's such a powerful, powerful song. If you don't mind me asking, like, what's the story behind that song? Like, what's the inspiration behind it?
Well, the inspiration behind "Don't Shoot" is actually everything that's going on today and what's been going on for years and years. With just the police brutality. And I think at that time it was around the time when you had like the Trayvon Martin killing and things like that. And it's one of those situations where it's like, hey man, our hands are up. Why are we still getting shot? You know, why are you shooting unarmed black men? And when I heard the message, because I get a lot of people who ask me to be on different songs and things like that, but I don't always accept. But when I heard that message, it was definitely, for me. And not only was it addressing the police killings, it was also addressing just random, black on black crime and things of that nature. Just trying to stop the gun violence altogether.
And I do want to say, that is actually such a powerful song, and I really do feel that everybody needs to hear songs like that, man, because that's what empowers the world and really, helps make a difference.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree.
And also, in December of 2018, you actually dropped the album Stay Up. I have to ask you, tell us a bit more about that record, and of course, where can our listeners buy or stream themselves a copy of that record?
Well, Stay Up was, I would call it the coming out party. I always call Stay Up the coming out party because back home, everyone knew me as the guy from church. They knew me as the gospel guy, and Stay Up was a way for me to introduce, I would say, what's really pulling on me. So when I wrote Stay Up, it came from the heart, and it was just basically trying to encourage people at the same time. There's a strong message in Stay Up that just I'm talking about whatever comes at you, whatever happens along the way, don't give up, don't quit, just keep going. Keep your head up, get back in the fight, dust yourself off, and you'll be all right.
And that's true, man. It's a great meaning behind that record. And I know it's been a couple years, but do you actually have hard copies available for the old school listeners that really do still enjoy just CDs?
I do, and those can be purchased directly from myself if there is anyone who wants to buy a hard copy version of any of my music. But most of my music, well, all of my music can also be found on all of your major streaming platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Tidal, Deezer, you name it, I'm up there.
And I do want to say first and foremost, man, you were actually the jack of all trades. Not only were you in the army, you're an R&B artist, but you were also in a feature film as well, actually called Happy Thanksgiving. Can you tell us about that experience and what was it like actually just playing that role?
Oh man, that was one of the highlights of my career, I would say, because like I've always been an entertainer, and I've always wanted to see people smile or be to a point where hey, they just have a good time being around me. So when I did the Happy Thanksgiving film, I actually auditioned for it, and what happened was the guy who initially was casted for the role, he uh, he backed out of it at the last minute. So, I got the role, and the director, she emailed me the script and everything, and I think I had like one day to prepare myself for actual shooting. And since I had never been on a movie set before, it was definitely a head spin, man. But I loved every bit of it.
And you know what I'm asking, like, is that the only movie that you actually took part in, or is there like any other movies that you have done?
It's the only feature film I've done. I've done some small shows. I'm working on a show now that's called The Click, that was shot based here in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's coming out soon. I believe they put out the first like pilot episode on YouTube. It's called The Click, and it was directed by Devin, the director. That's his name. That's what he goes by. So if you type in The Click by Devin, the director, on YouTube, that will pop up. And yeah, and I'm trying to get into some other things.
And also, August 20th of this year, and I don't know if this is actually going on due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but just in case, I'll bring it up. You will be performing live for the Soul at Home event. If that concert is still going on, can you like touch base with that and let our listeners know when and where they can grab tickets?
Well, it is still going on, but right now they're gonna be doing it over live stream, like you said, due to the COVID-19 outbreak. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna actually shoot everything here in my home studio, and anyone will be able to tune in and catch that whole performance.
Do you know where they would be able to tune in? Because I'd love to tune in and actually see your performance as well.
It's actually I can't name it right off the top of my head, but I will definitely get that to you so you can put it out to your listeners. Definitely.
Oh, most definitely, man. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, I'm sorry. I do remember. It's called Soul Tree, and they're on Instagram and Facebook as well. They're called Soul Tree, and that's spelled Souletri.
Okay, perfect. So everyone that is listening, make sure you follow them. That way you can stay updated and get notified when they go live with none other than El Terrel.
Yes, yes. Please do.
And also on April 20th, so not too long ago, you dropped your album My Life. If you don't mind me asking, you tell us the inspiration behind that record, and also where can our listeners buy or stream themselves a copy?
My life is it's basically I like to call it the diary. I was able to really tap into my innermost feelings with my life, especially the title song, My Life. One of the highlight lyrics from that song is still trying to be the best dad I can be, but still wondering why my dad left me. And that's so major for me because I have four biological boys myself, but between me and my wife together, we have eight because when me and her started dating, she had four kids already. So that song means so much to me, and that whole project just means everything to me.
And also, if you don't mind me asking, when you brought up Kid, actually, I actually saw on your Instagram that actually one of your sons is a rapper called Prince Jet. I have to ask you, man, did you inspire him to actually get into music? Because for his age, he is such a very talented individual.
Oh man, thank you so much. I think that's my biggest accomplishment to date, man. Just seeing him uh, go into. I mean, and he's been watching me since he was born. And we were sitting down in my studio one day, and he said, "Hey, Dad, I want a song for myself." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're only 5 years old." But I gave it a shot, man. So I've written both of the songs that he have out now. One being "My Friend," which was his debut single, and now he also just dropped a song on yesterday, actually called "Duke the Prince." So yeah, he's blowing up, man. He might blow up faster than me.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. When I seen that video on your IG, my jaw dropped. I was like, "Damn!" I'm like when I was that young, you know what I mean. Just the talent, man, is just phenomenal, man. So he most definitely is learning from the best. I'll tell you that for a fact.
Hey, I appreciate that, and I just think it was one of those things where I didn't have the platform when I grew up. We didn't have a lot of platforms that we could utilize at the time. I think the only thing we were able to submit to, or one of the only things we were able to submit to, was Showtime at the Apollo. And I grew up with parents well, my mom, who really didn't believe in, music and all of that stuff. So it was one of those things like, okay, that's a hobby, but you need to focus on something else. So now, for him to be able to do something that he loves at such an early age, I love to see the joy on his face.
And also on May 26th, you released a video on YouTube for your song Witness. Um, and I do want to let you know that directly after this interview for the listeners, I'm going to be playing that song as well because I just find that song's very powerful and I think it needs to be played, especially during these times. So if you can, could you actually let our listeners know just a little bit more like what the background behind that song, like how it came to be? That way when they listen to it, they can wrap their head around why you did that song.
Gladly, man. When Witness was made, it was actually on the day that George Floyd's video basically went viral on the internet. And I seen it a few times, and people started posting it over and over and over again. And I kept telling myself that I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to see what I already knew I was gonna see. So I eventually watched it, and watching like the 2 minute clip wasn't enough. So I went and watched the entire 10-minute long video, or however long it was. I watched that video, and as soon as I watched it, the way for me to express how I was feeling was by going into my studio and just letting it come off the top of my head. And that's exactly what I did with Witness. I didn't write anything. I found the perfect beat with the producer who I worked with for that song, and I just let my feelings just go.
And I do want to say, man, I unfortunately I watched the video. I think I got like maybe like 4 or 5 minutes in, man, and I couldn't do it, man. My heart actually broke, man. That entire incident I think was like 100% uncalled for, and I really am glad that those four officers get locked up. And it's pretty bad that a city had to burn down to the ground just to get that, but at least
Yeah,
we got some justice for George Floyd. I personally think they should get tossed up in general population with the key thrown away with no chance of PC, because I want to see how long they last with some real tough individuals.
I agree.
So most definitely rest in paradise to George Floyd.
Yeah, big up to George Floyd.
And also, one last thing I do want to say here, man, I just noticed that you just dropped another record as well called Summertime Vibes. I'm pretty sure we all know the inspiration behind that, Summertime Vibes, but can you let our listeners know just where they can actually grab a copy of your brand new record?
Oh man, Summertime Vibes is doing great right now. It's actually on SoundCloud, YouTube, all of the major streaming platforms, Apple, Google Play, Spotify, Deezer. It's everywhere. I encourage all of the listeners listening to go out and get Summertime Vibes. It's just, it's a vibe. It's a vibe.
Hey, you know what? Especially during these hard times, man, we definitely need some summertime vibes. So everybody, make sure you get yourselves El Terrell's summertime vibes. You know.
Yes.
But I do want to ask you, Terrell, what's next for you? Is there anything I happened to miss during this interview that you would like to promote? Anything else you just want to promote with the live audience while we still have you here?
Well, first, man, I want to commend you, because your research is top notch, man. And I want the listeners to know we didn't talk about this thing before or anything like that. So when you say you're a fan or you say you're a listener, you definitely are, man. And I really do appreciate that from you.
Hey man, you are most certainly welcome. I want to touch base on that quickly because I want to let people know that when I do interviews, this is how I do it. You know what I mean? I love having the audience learn about the artist. You know, I've before I got into radio, I always heard generic interviews like who your top five rappers, and I look at it as, you know, you have a platform to give a voice to these artists. Nobody wants to waste their time talking about generic questions, so you got to do your research, man. And I look at it as, you know what I mean? I love just touching base on people's careers, man, because it takes them down memory lane and inspires them to keep going in their career, man. So, you know what I mean? It's all good over here, man. I do want to say I do really do enjoy your music as well.
Definitely appreciate it, man. And as far as the initial question that you asked me, what's next for me? Right now, I'm just kind of watching how the different states are opening up, so that I can get back to doing shows and things of that nature. Because that's where I find the most joy, just being able to put a smile on other people's face, by them listening to me sing or by listening to the message that comes from my music. I love gathering new fans. So, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to getting back out there and actually communicating with people.
Most definitely. And El Terrell, so this is the time in the interview, before I wrap things up, that I give a chance for the individual that comes on the platform, just a chance to give shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to, and of course your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and your musical journey if they're not already doing so.
Awesome. Well, let me first give a shout out to God, because without Him, nothing that I do would be possible. I thank Him for the gift that He's given me. The second thing is House of Najib ENT, which is actually my own entertainment label, where actually me and my son, my 5-year-old son, Prince Jet, are the only artists on my production label right now. But shout out to House of Najib for what we are doing. And Franklin, Virginia, where I'm from, I give a shout out to them and all of my listeners back home that hopped on this interview to listen with us today. And lastly, for where I am now, I shout out Atlanta, Georgia, the ATL, who has accepted me as their own and, given me an opportunity to do what God has given me the ability to do.
And if you don't mind, Terrell, would you be able to drop your social media handles?
Oh yeah, definitely. And you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is that's L Terrell underscore official, and that's LTE 2 R's Terrel_official. I'm also on Twitter at I am underscore Terrell. You can find me on Facebook at L Terrell Music. Also on YouTube at L Terrell Machette. So, yeah, please, 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 everyone who's listening, please go out, follow me. I'll follow you back, connect with me, and let me know your favorite song when you check it out.
Most definitely, Trell. I want to say just thank you so much for coming up on 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM. It most definitely was an honor and definitely a privilege, man. Keep making that awesome music. Stay in touch, and whenever you drop your next project, hit me up, man. You're always welcome back here on 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM.
Definitely. And DJ Mortal, thank you, man, for believing in me, and thank you for also being a fan of my music. Ever since we've connected, man, I've been a fan of yours, and I've been checking you out, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to have this new connection.
Hey, man, you are most certainly welcome, man. Hit me up anytime, man. Thank you so much, and most definitely stay safe out there during this terrible pandemic.
You as well.
Have yourself a wonderful night, brother.
You too. Bye-bye.